Life, life, give my creation life. Do you remember to put the batteries in, cameraman? Power switch is behind him. Be a good boy and reach back there and hit it. Life! Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. I hope you're all recovering well from your turkey hangovers yesterday. But it's Black Friday and we're going to take a look at what was likely under most kids' trees back in 1985 for Christmas. This is the Autobot Defense Base Omega Supreme. Omega Supreme was released in 1985. He would also be available in 1986. He would be discontinued in 1987 and would be indirectly replaced on the market by Fortress Maximus. I say it as indirectly because the two do not share the same function, but basically they share the same role as a playset for kids, but Fortress Maximus was a headmaster leader, whereas Omega Supreme is a defense base. Omega Supreme has an interesting history with the Transformer toy line. He was not produced by Takara Toys, but was instead produced by a company called Toybox, which eventually got bought out by Tomy. Toybox also had produced the mold for the toy that became Skylynx. And apparently when Tomy was in talks to be bought by Takara, some of the researchers into the company found the specs, the design specs for the Omega Supreme toy, and that was one of the major things that helped in sealing the deal. Thus, the Japanese market with the Transformers Encore line was able to finally get their own official versions of Skylynx and Omega Supreme. Omega Supreme is one of the first Transformers that was battery powered. He came out in the same year as Shockwave. So, depending on which one kids got first would determine which one they thought was the first one to be battery powered. Of course, in this mode here, Omega Supreme can walk. Well, mine doesn't walk very good due to age and such, but might as well show you here. This part down here on his chest, fold that down and then pop it out. And there you can see 2 AA batteries are the source of his power. Close that back up. There we go. Now right back here behind the head, right back here there is a red switch, as you can see there, underneath the tank turret. That's what you would push, and that will activate his walking feature. And it'll also cause his head to light up a little. Come on, you were walking fine a moment ago. Like I said, mine doesn't walk very good. The right leg isn't catching properly, but you get the general idea. He doesn't walk very fast in this mode. But at any rate, let's take a look at some of the articulation that Omega has, and unfortunately, due to him being a motorized toy, he does have very limited articulation. You can turn the head from side to side, and you can rotate the arms. They would go all the way around, but the train tracks here get in the way. Plus, he also has the ability to raise his arm out about so far. And he does have an elbow joint. And that's really about it. The legs are unfortunately not posable due to the motorized function and the way that they're put together. Omega Supreme, when he transforms, only this midsection is really what transforms. The rest of him is all loose pieces that is snapped together to form the basis of the toy. Okay, to start transforming this bad boy, the first thing we're going to do is remove his arms. Now to do that, there's a little black button on each one of them that you will push downward, and then you can slide the piece off gently, like so. Of course, since his arms form the rocket of the base, we might as well go ahead and combine them together. Only to go together in a specific way. And we got the rocket built. We'll just set that aside for the time being. Next, we're going to turn him around. We're going to press this little switch here at the bottom of the backpack. Because it should, once you get it in, it should raise up. Well, whole unit's coming off, so let's see if we can't just pop it all off. There we go. Push him aside for a second here. Now somewhere on here, this thing, push it down and then raise it up. Then we can remove these track sections and close it back up. We'll set the parts aside. Omega seems to have shifted on us here a little. There we go, put him back for a brief bit. The next thing is we're going to remove the yellow shields that are on his legs. You just slide them upwards, and then they pop off. He's got one on the front of his legs, and there's two more on the back side. Get those off, and then you can separate the armor that is on his legs with relative ease. We have to pull the interior ones down a bit to get them freed. And then you've got these sections here for his ankles and feet. Feet just slide right off. And the ankles are held together by a couple of clips, one in front and one in back. As you see, they take very little effort to pop free, but you'll still want to be careful with them because you don't want to break it. Omega Supreme is a relatively old toy, but he is still common enough on the market. You can find scrap pieces if you need to replace any. And then that leaves you with this to form your tank with. Now, the first thing we got to do is we take the chest plate and lower it down a bit. The upper chest portion we just fold up inside like so. And then we can rotate this piece all the way down flat like so. And the next thing we want to do is we want to take the tank treads that are here and gently slide them back in inside like so. Then for his arms, you're going to straighten them out like that and then fold them up on top of his chest. Try to slide them back all the way as well to reveal a couple of extra guns. And there we have it. Omega Supreme is in his tank mode. And yes, the motorized function does allow him to roll. And rotate the turret. But of course, as we all know, he was more famous for riding around on a train track around the defense base. Well, we need to build the defense base with all the remaining pieces, plus a few extras. Now, I want y'all to pay attention to the pieces as we're assembling them, because this is how we're going to cover the loose pieces. Alright, the first thing we start with are what they call the armor halves. There are 4 pieces of armor half, and each one of them has a letter engraved underneath them. See, this one's got A, this one is B, this one here is C, and this one is D. So in order to have a complete one, you need A, B, C, and D. Now, you would take the armor halves. The instructions recommend you get A and B together. As you can see, A's got 3 teeth here at the bottom, and B has 3 slots here at the bottom. So you just line it up like so to connect them together. You'll do the same thing with C and D to connect them together. Then next, to help secure them back here at this post, you're going to take 2 of the yellow shields, specifically the small ones. There are 2 small ones. And you're going to put 1 in each of these 2 sections to help hold these bridges together. Just exactly like that. Just make sure you got them in there snug and secure to keep the bridge from falling apart. Not as easy to do as it once was. But then, now you get to attach the ankle pieces onto the tracks. And of course, the ankle pieces are also labeled in the next 4 letters of the alphabet. So you'll have one here that's labeled E. It's probably not there it is. There's the E. This one here is F. It's on the left side there. You got one labeled G. And you got one labeled H. So we're going to take piece H, and you'll connect it here at the top of piece A, like so. And then you'll get piece G and connect it in on letter B's armor plate. Then you'll get the other one. F will connect into armor piece C. Well, at least that's what they say. That's E. F. F goes in here, and E goes into D. Just like that. And that gets you the bridge built. Now, next we got to work with the tracks. But there's more pieces of track. Omega doesn't hold all the track on him. There's a total of 6 pieces of train track. You have 2 of them that are like this. And on the inside, they are both labeled here in the center as I. So as you can imagine, these other pieces are the next letters in the alphabet. You have right here J, K, L, and M. So you're going to take one of the I pieces, and you will attach to it a piece that doesn't have the excess, and then on the opposite side, a piece that does have a little of the excess, like so. And then you'll do it the opposite way down here, so that you have a nice curvy track. Eject from this so you can get a good look at that track. Alright. Remount the camera here. Now, of course, you're going to take this section, these sections of track, and you need to attach the bridges to them. You want to attach it so that this gap here in the bridge faces the interior. Just exactly like that. We'll bring the other piece here and drop it in place. And back a bit so you can see what we've done. A little hard to see with with these guys being as big as they are. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 feet, and then you're going to take the large shields, like that. And the large shields will get their big post here on the back. They connect into this T-slot on the foot. Exactly like that. And I situate the feet so that the feet stick under the bridge like that. And next you will get the medium shields. These pieces here. And they will be slotted into the top of the feet. Just drop them on and slide back. And then next you will take the backpack. You'll notice here at the bottom of the backpack there are a couple of posts. You will line those posts up with the holes here on the top of the feet. And then there you go. All you have to do then is position the rocket in near there and place the tank onto a relatively straight piece of track. Get the instructions out of our way here, and the tripod, so you can get a good look at Omega Supreme in complete base mode. Now, granted, it is very simple of a base, especially when you compare him to the later toys, but it isn't bad for what it is. It basically serves a purpose as a shuttle bay, a rocket launch base, but it has a perimeter track that the tank can roll on to patrol the base. Let's get Omega running around the track here. Just push it and watch him go. Whoops. Get him hung up there. I can imagine when we were growing up as kids, that was a pretty fun thing to watch. Light up and rolling around under that track, rolling around on that track under the Christmas tree. Probably wish you could have hooked it up to the real train tracks that were running under your tree. I didn't have this one growing up as a child. I bought him as an adult collector. It was a surprise when I got it, and it turned out it actually worked. So, but there you have it. That's Omega Supreme in base mode. As you saw, if you've got the track built exactly right, then you will have no problems getting him to roll across it. Now we shall take a look at his instruction manual. And as you can imagine, for a toy of his size, the manual is very large. Get a good look here at all the loose parts. And if you were following along, you saw there was quite a few. And here's how to put the batteries in him. Of course, remember, collectors, if you're not going to play with him all the time, do not store batteries in him. And then basically how to transform the tank, and add on the pieces. To make him into the robot. Which is quite a chore in unto itself, to say the least. But that's where half the fun comes in. And of course, now that they've built the robot, then it becomes how to turn him back into the base. Which we'll admit it looks complicated, but it's actually very, very simple. Oops, wait a minute here. Where the instructions folded back over here. There's a little bit more to show. Then we come down here. And then, of course, stickers. He had a ton of stickers to put on. This must have been a job for a parent to put on back in the day. Then, of course, we have the rub sign, the robot points, and the tech spec decoder. And speaking of which, we've got his tech spec card right here. It's done it primarily in red to show that he's an Autobot. It lists him as an Autobot. And this picture would have been the one on the front of the box. It gives his name as Omega Supreme. His function is Defense Base. And his motto is, Unyielding Resolve has no conqueror. The ultimate defense force. Great strength, even greater courage. Serious, even grim. Last line of Autobot defense. Protects the Ark and all else vital to his cause. As robot can shatter a mountainside, lift 300,000 tons with clawed arm, destroy 12-inch steel cube with plasma blaster arm. Has head-mounted laser cannon. Can transform into laser cannon tank and launching pad with rocket. Rocket can achieve planetary orbit. Now, of course, we place the decoder here. And we see what his stats bring about. It shows his strength is 10, his intelligence is 5, his speed is 3, his endurance is 10, his rank is 7, his courage and firepower are 10, and his skill is 6. So, aside from low stats on his speed and intelligence, Omega here is very powerful for a Transformer. Now we get down to my thoughts on Omega Supreme. What do I think of him? Omega Supreme is an interesting toy. Of course, this one is more of a bygone era, since as you can imagine, modern collectors today find him a pain in the butt to get complete due to the fact that he has so many loose pieces that have to be taken care of. And of course, some of them are rather fragile. The claw arms here in particular are prone to breakage, so you do have to be careful with them. That and many of the yellow shields, especially the small ones, are very difficult to find on the loose market. And unfortunately, with the very specific way that all of his pieces are to be put together, you can't substitute any of them for the exact opposite. You have to get the exact pieces. So it does make getting a complete Omega a bit of a daunting task for a modern collector. But he does serve an important bit of history for the Transformers. As you heard at the beginning of the video, how he was an important factor behind the scenes for the history of two of Japan's companies. But in the series itself, he holds more prominence. In the cartoon series, Omega Supreme was depicted as a one-time friend of the Constructicons until Megatron corrupted them into fighting for him. Thus, he was the only force the Autobots had that could stand up to the Combiner, except for the occasional bouts with the Dinobots. As it turns out, the expanded lore goes further with Omega and claims that Omega Supreme is one of the many Omega Sentinels that inhabit Cybertron. Omega Supreme here is the strongest and smartest of them, which is why he was granted his own spark, making him a sentient creature, unlike the others. So he represents a bygone era from Cybertron. Of course, now, for those of you who have been keeping up with the modern Transformers, Omega Supreme was just recently, not too long ago, released as the Titan-class figure for the Siege War for Cybertron line, and we will be reviewing him next month as well, so you'll get to see how he compares to the original one. Now, granted, while this one was a toy from another thing that was forced into the Transformer line, I think Omega Supreme works out well for it. Granted, he's not perfect for being one that was a shoehorn into the Transformers world, but I think he holds his own pretty well in it and has built himself a decent legacy. So despite a lot of the faults that he has, I'm still going to squeeze Omega in as a top tier toy. As for many of us, he was likely the first playset that we had for the Transformers, so that at least gave us something to go along with, since we never had an ARC playset. This gave us something as reasonably close as we were ever going to get for it. Anyway, that concludes my review of the 1985 Autobot Defense Base Omega Supreme. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button down below to join our ranks. Unless, of course, you're 13 years or under, then you can't join our ranks. Please also, especially if you're not under 13, leave your thoughts about Omega Supreme in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701, announcing that next month, throughout December, we're going to be covering a lot of the rest of the Siege toys, including the 3 sets that were exclusive to Amazon. So, if you've been wanting to get my thoughts on those, please catch us here next month, and I'll catch you all later.